Welcome back to the shop. Today we've got a simple repair on Project Black Pearl. See, I was fortunate enough to get 2 keys with this car, which is quite the rarity on a 20-plus-year-old car. Not something you normally expect. What isn't rare is neither of these keys worked remotely. The batteries in these keys were rechargeable from the factory, and they would last somewhere between 8 and say 15 or so years normally. Sometimes you could recharge these by putting them on a toothbrush recharger or other small wattage rechargers or inductive rechargers. I tried that with both of these keys, it didn't work. So what we have to do is we have to cut these keys apart down the seam and replace the soldered on battery inside. That battery is a VL2020 with 90-degree pins. I bought my batteries on Amazon as well as my super glue to put everything back together. I'll have links down below to all of that jazz, as well as some of my new merch and shirts and things like that that I have available. So what we gotta do, and I've already done on this key and confirmed it worked, is pull this other key apart. It is a good idea to cycle through your keys and make sure they stay charged, especially these ones with the rechargeable batteries. Now, these batteries, I don't believe are gonna be rechargeable. I haven't seen anything to that fact. So, you're just gonna get the life out of the battery. They are lithium, so they're gonna last longer. To get them apart, it's gonna be a bit of a tedious process, and you wanna make sure not to cut your hands open. But what we're gonna do is we're going to be cutting right along the seam of the battery to split the case. And I have a fresh razor blade here. With this one, I tried using a little bit of heat on the razor blade and it didn't seem to make a big difference. Although I did wind up my soldering iron moved around on my bench and melted part of my key when I wasn't looking. That sucked. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put the key flat on the bench here and start pressing in gently. I don't wanna make the cut all the way through the first time. I'm just gonna rotate the key as I go, trying to be nice and steady and cut away from my hands. Now this process could take a little while to get through, and what's important is you have a circuit board inside here with different contacts and pins and your little buttons on there. You don't wanna cut all the way through and damage that circuit board. So that's where taking your time here is really gonna pay dividends in the end and not damaging something. On the end of your key where the key ring goes, you can cut through that whole section, and then you're gonna also have to cut through in tight in there behind the trunk button and slowly work my way in without sliding off and damaging the key more. Once we get the key to start prying apart, we're gonna be using a little flat blade screwdriver. I'm also using a little bit of dry lube on the end of the razor blade here to see if it will help as far as sliding a little bit and penetrating in there. This is quite the tedious process, and you're gonna really have to work on your patience here. Here I'm just rocking the blade in front of the key shank. Right there, I can feel that it's starting to push its way through. So then I'm just gonna move down a little bit further. Yep, just like that. I've got these alignment dowels or jigs in my welding table here. It's a great spot to line the key up with. Try to hold it in place. You can see right there, we're starting to make some progress, and the key is splitting ever so gently. Whoa! Well, that was a lot. Guess I wasn't being as careful as I thought. It just broke free right there. Most of it, at least. And that is precisely, whoa! Well,
precisely
what you're not wanting to do. So you can see here, I just split the back of the battery right off of there, cut through the contact. That's gonna make it a little bit tougher to get the new battery on. Right here are your 2 contacts. On the back, you can see that contact split right where the razor blade went through there. Hopefully, I was on the back side of the circuit board and I didn't damage any of the circuits. Everything looks okay. This is just a protective cover for the battery. I suppose we'll find out after we get this off of here. Okay, now we need to apply some heat to our contact. Try to pull that sucker out of there and then solder in our new battery. Oh man, guess I shouldn't have put that there. I had this sitting on a file and it melted right through the edge of the file there. And apply a little heat on this side so that I can lift the circuit board off of that solder. Just like that, it started lifting pretty quick. I'll have to do the same thing to get the new contact in. Now I need to get this contact over here out. There it is. So we still have all of our old solder in place there, which is going to be in the way to get our new contacts in. You can see there's the contact for the old battery. Just trying to expose the opening there. Get the old solder out of the way just a little bit. So what I found worked really well for my other battery was applying pressure from the back side while heating this side. You have to stretch the contacts just a little bit to get them to fit the way that I want them to in there. Just like that, went right through. There we go. Now they're both through. Now we need the solder on this side. I'm no electronics specialist. What I'm trying to show here is you can do this at home with very little electronic specialty skill. There we go. With solder, you're trying to get the solder to flow to the heat and fill that gap. There we go. Okay, that's acceptable. I don't want to melt all the little circuits around it. Now what we need to do is we need to get the key battery back in here, and then we're going to use this key as our initialization key, and then see if this one will initialize in the car. To see if this process works, we've got our key in multiple pieces here. We're going to take our other key and we're going to start the key pairing or initialization process. To do that, we're going to put the key in, turn the key on, turn it off, hold unlock, and then press lock 3 times, usually over our shoulder here because the antenna is in the back. You'll know it's successful because the key, or not the key, the central locking system will cycle. So it will only do this if all of the doors, trunk, and hood are closed. Key in, hold unlock, 1, 2, 3. There we go, we just cycled. Now we'll do it with this key. Hold unlock, 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Try one more time. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you mess up. So we'll try this again. I'll pop the door open. And I'll try it with just this key this time. But I may either have a bad key or I damaged something in the process. The unlock button does feel kind of weird, like it's worn out. It doesn't really click when you push it. All right, it looks like we have one dead key and one good key, which is kind of a bummer. Well, I spent a fair amount of time looking at the circuit board under my tiny little magnifying glass here, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I measured the voltage across the contacts and it's 2.935, it's a 3-volt battery. Ironically, the old battery was measuring 2.85, so not a whole lot different. Leads me to believe that perhaps the front button here is my problem. It just doesn't click and respond like the other ones. It's kind of dull. So maybe it's not actuating. I don't know enough about these tiny little circuit boards, or any circuit board for that matter, to be able to diagnose it any further than that. There's just definitely something wrong with this key. So let's glue this sucker back together. We're just gonna put a dab of this gel all the way around I like the gel because it doesn't run off. And we're gonna take our key, try to layer on here nice and straight, like so. Squeeze it together. Then I'm gonna use a pair of clamps to hold it in place. Then any remaining super glue that's left on the outside, I'll file off once that's dry. Well, unfortunately, this key doesn't work. I checked it with my scanner and I can't read the central locking functions, but I can go into the EWS and I can read which key this is, whether or not it's transmitting, and whether or not it's unlocking the EWS. It works for everything except the key remote functions, which is kind of a bummer. It's key number 5, which tells me it was a replacement key at some point, but you know, it is what it is. Sometimes this happens. It's time to check this off of our project list, even if it is only halfway done. So let's talk about how much this repair cost. I bought 2 batteries for $24.31 and the glue for $3.64. $27.95 plus tax, yada, yada, yada. That brings my total up to $4,301.19. Back here on our list, we have key batteries, and we can mark that off for now. Back there, we've got all those extra parts for Project Black Pearl. We're gonna get some other repairs done on it here shortly, and hopefully I get the X5 in tip-top shape so that I have a shop runner and I can dig into the timing chains on this car. I'm gonna do some powder coating and a lot of cleanup on this engine, try to make it look nice and new again. Thanks for watching. Check out my merch store down below. Grab a shirt, grab a hat, grab a sticker. Whatever you can do to help would be awesome. Like, subscribe, comment, do those things. I'll see you next time.